Right, so now we've got our first panel of the day. So we're going to have a panel on billion-dollar secrets, games that never die. And so please welcome to the stage. We've got Jessica Banunaek from Adjoe, Joel Kulikoff from Rovio, Luke Rade from Outfit 7, and Talia Zulty from PlayStudios. So yeah, big round of applause. Yeah, take it on.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. I hope everybody survived last night. Welcome to this panel. I'm happy to be here with my panelists. Today we're going to discuss billion-dollar secrets, games that never die. Obviously, there are so many games in the industry right now. There are some games that are so big that we want to know what they've been doing right. And today we're going to unravel those secrets. So, I will be your moderator today. My name is Jessica Banunaek from Adjoe. We help app developers with unique ad solutions to diversify their UA and monetization mix. Today we have on stage my awesome panelists, looking fresh. We have the biggest experts here on titles such as Angry Bird. I don't know if you guys have heard it. Talking Tom and Tetris. Today we're going to see and hear from them what it is that they do to be so successful, how do they reach those millions of users, and how do they captivate those millions of users. So without further ado, let's start with some introduction. Talia, let's start with you. Tell us who you are and what you do.
And if I don't want?
I will do it.
Okay, I'm Talia. Well, it's a bit tricky. Okay. From PlayStudios, been working at PlayStudios for the past 3 years. I started as a senior user acquisition for our slots title, like Pop Slot, if you know. And over the past year, I'm leading the casual category, which is fairly new. Before that, we focused only on social casino. And this category includes Tetris. I hope that you all know and love it. You have to. And Branium, which is a company acquired by PlayStudios last year and has multiple games like Solitaire, Mahjong, Free Cell, and much more.
Cool. Well?
Hello, I'm Joel. I'm from Rovio. I have been there for 4 years in the user acquisition team. Currently, I'm responsible of the new titles and helping them to grow to billion-dollar games. But I have also worked in the titles like Angry Birds Dream Blast and Angry Birds 2 that are our biggest free-to-play successes at the moment.
Okay, hi, I'm Luka. I've been with Outfit 7 now for almost 8 years. We are best known for the Talking Tom and Friends IP, so games such as My Talking Tom, My Talking Angel, and so forth. And as a part of the performance team, we are leading both the user acquisition as well as cross-promotion and app store optimization.
Fantastic. Let's start and kick this off with a burning question. In your opinion, what are the key elements that contribute to the game's longevity in the market? Joel, shall we start?
I think the first thing is the game needs to be engaging. It needs to be fun. The players need to love to play it. Like you can't make billions if the game doesn't make sense for the players. After that, you need to have something that the players want to spend not only their time but money also. So you have to have the model for that, whether it's ads or IAPs. It needs to make sense for the players as well. Quick wins can be gained, but to grow to from millions to billions, you need to really understand the customers.
Cool. Luka, anything to add?
I mean, like Joel said, it's really important that the game has this strong value proposition. Either it can be on the distribution side by being a very casual, very likable to a big audience, or in case if it's a smaller audience, smaller potential audience, then it needs to have a very high value proposition within the game so you can monetize it extremely well.
Cool. Talia?
I will divide it to relevancy and market fit. So if you look at Tetris, for example, everyone can play it. My parents, my aunt, my best friend, my sister. It doesn't have to be 20 or 50 to play it. So the market fit and the audience is very wide. The second one is marketing. Although you have a strong brand and people know it, you still need to secure it. And look at, for example, at Coca-Cola or McDonald's.
Yeah.
People know them, but they're still, they still want to stay in people awareness, and they use marketing for that. So marketing is indeed very important. And the last part is user experience. You have, like Luka said, the value proposition. You need player to love your game and will want to continue to play your game. So you need to add more feature and add new stuff to your game to make it more playable and engagement for the users.
Interesting. So some of us here in the audience are most probably UA managers, so I'd like to pick your brain on some UA topics. Ready? Okay, so UA in today's market can be a challenge. Today, yesterday, probably tomorrow. So what are some strategies or tactics that have helped your game to reach millions of users? Luka, what's your take on that?
I mean, the industry changed so much in the past couple of years. Like, we went in the last, let's say, 10 years from not being able to properly measure the impact of the user acquisition, then to going into this very deterministic model that was kind of simple to really, let's say, handle well. Yep. And now going into this privacy-centric fashion with Apple's ATT and Android's privacy sandbox, that, you know, just looking at the user acquisition itself needs to be a much more holistic overview of what you're doing, right? So it's not just a matter of what specifically each channel brings, but also how they impact each other. Like, do they complement each other well? Yeah. Do they maybe like take away each other's traffic and stuff like that? And at the end of the day, I think it definitely comes down to the profit and loss part on the segment itself, like the whole game in a given market. So just looking at the user acquisition in a more holistic way as part of the entire marketing efforts needs to be taken much more into account than it was in the past.
Mm-hmm. Holistic, relevancy, and diversification. Cool. Joel?
I think for brands like Angry Birds, it might be a bit different in some cases. Like you need to be real for the brand that you have built. Like in Angry Birds 2, we have seen that the players expect a certain type of slingshot game. Like, yes, they have seen something related to those like early slingshot titles. They have seen the game before. They might have even played it before. Like, you need to be true to the message that you're delivering and to the game that you have. Like, when you're building something new, maybe it's easier to try to go a bit more wild on the user acquisition side to build the strategies from that. But like when growing up, consistency is still the key. And like nowadays, I think key to success is how to measure the installs and the revenues when you don't have the visibility. It might be that Google goes to the sandbox and like you don't have the visibility like we used to have like for years now. So like the incrementally the analysis is a key for the user acquisition success, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Maybe just to add to what you said, you know, like on one point you are limited with the IP and brand promise, but at the same time, like we don't complain about it.
No, it's a huge asset.
Yeah.
Cool. I want to go back to you, Luka, because you mentioned this earlier. The landscape has changed in UA, and can you share with us some changes that you have implemented in your US strategy, and how has that helped you?
As mentioned before, right, like, I don't know, 5 years ago, we were really looking at the numbers reported by the networks, seeing how those users behaved internally, and then appropriately reacted with campaigns optimization. You know, now it's not as simple as it was, realistically. Like, we use different models, whether this being causal impact analysis or the mixed media modeling or whatever. But definitely we look at things from like a different point of view. Like we zoom out from, you know, based on what we do. So we don't look at just one network in a vacuum, how it operates, but like how it impacts everything else, right? Because realistically also, you know, on the other side, the supply partners also adjusted the way they operate than they did in the past. I would say, you know, what's maybe like lack in this industry is to have certain standards when it comes to the performance advertising or UA in general. And this is what also complicates things, because, I don't know, if you work with 10 different networks, for example, you probably have at least 5 or 6 different experiences with them. And then onboarding and exploring new networks becomes that much more challenging because it's not like you know what to expect.
Yeah, that's also what you said earlier. It has to complement each other one way or another. Talia, what about you?
For Tetris is a bit different because PlayStudios acquired Tetris side only 2 years ago, and we started UA activity only 10 months ago. Before that, the game was based only on organic installs. There wasn't really UA testing.
Yep.
I mean, there was, but very minimal. And when we started 10 months ago, we basically wanted to answer the question whether there is a room for UA and if we can, you know, increase Tetris audience because we have wide audience, right? So what we did that we started with a small UA budget and strict KPIs like low CPI, and then we just like started and test a few stuff at a time. And I can say that after 10 months, we managed to triple the budget, and we managed to also double the DAO. So we did manage to answer the question that there is room for UA, and we managed to increase the audience without organic cannibalization, and this was like our concern at first. But I want to go back to what Luka said about the industry and the changes in privacy. So we faced it with our slots title, for example. So it got very difficult to acquire users, iOS users. So we faced it in our other games, and for Tetris because it's new, so just like different challenges.
Let's go, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. I think you also mentioned testing new channels previously, Luka. Is there any tactics or strategies that you guys use to test new channels? Any one-size-fits-all approach, perhaps?
I mean, definitely not a one-size-fits-all. Realistically, it's a business decision at the end of the day, right? Like, you will work with a channel, like if it has value for you. Similarly, like players will download your game if it has value for them.
Yeah.
For us, I would say the main metrics are we able to expand to a new user base with it? Or is this just some channel that will maybe take away traffic from other channels, and instead of acquiring X amount of users from one channel, we'll now have to deal with two channels. That's definitely something we wouldn't want to do.
Right.
And then there's also like the question of how the addition of those channels impacts the organics. Like Talia said, you definitely don't want to have just one channel that's taken away from your organic and be happy about paying for that. So.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, you need to look at it holistically, how it impacts your whole UA picture, if it makes sense or not. And then also the scope is important because at the end of the day, if you're just going to, let's say, increase your budget by 1% and have to, I don't know, put in extra 20% of the effort into it, that's also not worth it. So that's why it's like, in a way, it's hard to, once you come to a certain point where you have a well-established stack of channels, I think it's kind of hard to add on additional ones with success. Like usually it's a losing proposition simply from math perspective. Like, when you make creatives, like at one point when you have a best performing, it's unlikely that you're going to find additional ones that work really well.
Is that also your experience, Joel?
In a way, yes. I think like we try out new networks just to make sure that we are running the right mix. So like similarly, what Luka said, it's tricky when you have the mix that is working for you. Like it's taking much more time to onboard something new compared to running just everything that you had. But like at least we have noticed sometimes that we are like behind with some newcomers. And like when you are that big, like maybe you have earned the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time you don't want to miss out something that is working super well. So trying to find the balance between like running something that works, that maybe requires a bit less effort, and then still acquiring the opportunities that come with the new networks that are rising.
Yeah, and trying to stay up to date and making sure you're not the
Exactly.
FOMO.
Exactly, and gaining that extra like benefit that might come if someone else is not like onboarding those networks yet.
Interesting, cool. So let's talk about scale. With all the work you guys do, you manage different channels. Tell us what you guys do in terms of streamlining processes, managing the workloads. Can you share with us some things that you have done in the past that is still working for you now? Talia?
So first, you need to have a great people and a great team, and to begin with. The second one, what we do is we have dedicated meeting to overview the tasks that we have.
Okay.
We try to automate what we can. We use Jira to for like creative production, for example, if we need new creative. So we have the Jira board for that. In terms of automation, so we have a lot of reports that we are doing and alerter. And for innovation, I would say that we just try to keep up with the trends. And we have friends in the industry, so we ask questions, we go to conference like this, and just try to get a hold of everything, I guess. But we manage.
Yeah, very good. What about you guys?
Like Talia said, it's first thing it's about having a great team, also a team that's like accountable, for what they do. So the sense of ownership is really important. That you have people that you trust with, that you work with. And then it comes down with other things, like you mentioned, with the automation, like automate as much as possible, not just to save time, but also to possibly prevent human error in the process of it. And then it comes down to the peer exchanges, and also like Joel mentioned earlier, it's also about testing new products, not just new networks, but also other products, and having this open mind. Like, realistically, I don't know, 90% of things might not make sense for you, but it's about chasing those 10% of things that might change the game on how you work.
Cool, Joel?
Yeah, I would say like of course we want to automate the things that don't make sense doing manually. Like I'm super happy that we're not updating the bits for each publisher like by hand like nowadays. Like at the same time, I think I wouldn't talk about streamlining, but focusing on other things. Like when you have your mix of networks running, it's easier to focus on, okay, like can we segment some of the players? Can we provide them the experiences that they're looking for? Focus on the user journey outside of the hands-on stuff. Like when you don't need to focus on getting the installs attributed correctly, you can focus on something that makes more value beyond the technical setups. So like it's just like refocusing for me, maybe more than just streamlining with the great team, as you have said.
Cool. Let's switch gears a little bit. With a massive user base that you guys have, talk to us about how you keep the players engaged. How do you keep them happy?
Well, I can go first. Like you want to provide them experiences that fit to the overall game, but are also novel. So like you want to keep your live ops lively, as we tend to say, to like provide something new that is adding to the mix, that is providing value for them, and when players see the value, then they also tend to give it back. We have seen massive successes like with Royal Match. They have events going on all the time. There's always something new. And looking at the charts, it's definitely adding value for the players. At the same time, be careful with your community. Like that's the other big thing I think for the established brands, established titles. You want to take care that you still serve the most engaged players, the fans that you have, and listen to them.
Cool. What about you guys?
I agree. Obviously, it's about product at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You can't market a subpar product to the heights that you want. And having the updates that make sense, also like from the content as well as from the brand perspective, are really important. And that's why a lot of times it's also worth doing A/B testing before going into full flight mode with those updates, because like in theory they could be good updates, but they might diminish the performance of the app itself, right? So having this player-centric approach in mind is really important. You're not, as a product, you're probably like very focused on what you want to see in the game and have in the game and what's fun for you. But at the end, you're doing the game for the users, right? So they should be this light beacon that kind of directs where you go with this.
always listening to feedback. What about you, Talia?
I totally agree with both of you. If we go back to the first question, and I said relevancy, and so you need your game to be relevant, and how you do it, you need to try, like Joel said, to add new feature to the game, but you need to make sure that you're not going too far from the core gameplay and mechanism, because this is the reason that the user came, in the first place. So what we do, for example, then last year we introduced a new game mode to the game, which is a Tetris with a twist. So basically, Tetris is a marathon. Okay, you play and you want to beat your highest score. So what we did, we added a new game mode that you have a mission, and you need to, for example, clear 15 lines in 10 moves, for example. And then we saw it was like a great hit. Like people love it and react to that. And we added a new thing that is not Tetris, but it's not too far from Tetris, because you're still playing Tetris, but in a different, let's say, mode. But Luka said, first, of course, we did an A/B test. We are not going to roll out the change without testing on a small audience, because it's risky and no. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I guess it keeps the game also fresh and engaging, right? So that's why players keep coming back to it. Joel, you mentioned about keeping the community thriving. Like, what are the steps that you guys do to keep that alive? Like, is there any secret sauce there?
I think it depends on your product. Like it depends on the game genre as well. Like if your genre is more like based on the upcoming experiences that you might have like in the portfolio, then it's more about the portfolio. For Angry Birds, like it's been here forever, I would say, in the mobile free-to-play. Like there are a lot of fans that want to keep the engagement through Facebook or through Discord or through these kind of channels. So provide them the opportunity to interact. They are doing it anyways. Like there are Twitter or X like accounts nowadays that that are commenting what's happening on Angry Birds games. And like usually that's also a good way for us to see if something is differently than what we expected. And like I have seen them like commenting our UA ads before we are live in the main markets. So like just be aware what's happening in there, and when you see that there's community driving, maybe like grasp that opportunity, be involved, interact with them and learn from them.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Cool. So now you have the players, you have the system in place. Let's talk about ad monetization. So balancing monetization with preventing user churn, it's key. How do you guys introduce ads to your games, and what are kind of the tactics that you can share with the audience here?
I mean, it all comes down back to the A/B testing, realistically. Like, for every iteration, you basically have a bunch of A/B tests on what's the best for both sides. Like, in one point, obviously, you want to monetize the game as best as possible. On the other, you need to be aware, like, at a certain point, it becomes just too intrusive, and the user churn, like, accelerates rapidly, more than the ad revenue growth occurs. So, having that, and also having ads in-game mindfully. Like, obviously, rewarded videos have, by default, a value proposition for users, but, also making sure, that interstitials or banners are not too disruptive of the gameplay, So, I don't know, like using the interstitial in case of, I don't know, let's say Tetris, at the end of a level or something, is definitely much more tolerable than having it like as a block goes down, right, and having a pause mid-game, right? So.
Oh, it's a no-no.
It's a feature.
What about you?
So basically you covered it on the test side, but I would just add that the challenge is, to balance between the user experience, retention, and revenue. Because if you're going to go too aggressive and introduce a lot of ads, so at the short term, you're going to have high revenue, of course. But in the long term, it's going to lead to churn, and then you're going to lose, in the long run. And if you're going to do approach that is more friendly and less intrusive, so you'll have high retention but low revenue.
Right.
So you need to find the balance between the two. And And this is the mission and the challenge of the Edmond team. And also what we are doing in terms of ad, that we monitor the ad that we are introducing. We check the content, the length, and the overall experience, because we see high correlation between the ad that is shown and the user behavior after that.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Do you guys work together with the, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, what kind of synergies do you have between paid UA and ad monetization? Like, how do you guys work together? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Joe?
I think we have the best experts on both of the sides, but I think the key is to find the markets where maybe the ad monetization makes more sense than the IAPs. It's about that mix, and also finding the opportunities together. I think we are a big company, we are big teams. We could collaborate a bit more, but at the same time, I think we are discussing with the ad side too, and trying to find the combinations. Maybe we can in some campaigns buy users for less if we can provide them more ads to help them to progress in the game, even though these players might not be as willing to pay. Right. So finding that balance and trying to find the best solutions for each game, that's what we aim to do.
Sounds like good advice. Cool. So I have one last question before we go to the audience. So what advice would you give to aspiring game developers who are looking to create engaging games, build a successful monetization, and reach tons of users? This is for you all. Let's start with you, Talia.
I thought you said you all. So first, ask people, ask around, ping someone on LinkedIn, go to a conference, and then ask someone if you can, have a chat for a few minutes. Understand the market. It's very important to understand the market, which competitors, if you want to enter, let's say, the puzzle category, so you need to understand who are the key players, and you need to understand how saturated is the market, and if there is room for, a new game. You need to understand maybe how you can introduce something new to the game that you want to publish that is missing on other games, and to enhance your unique value proposition, for example. And ask around, and it's important also to ask, the potential audience that you're aiming towards. And and testing. A lot of testing.
Good advice. Yeah.
I think in general there are two ways to tackle this. First, come up with something new. Come up with something that doesn't exist in the market, that the genre maybe isn't as full as the traditional mobile gaming genres. Or then do something that exists very, very well. I don't think many people assume that there's room for a new match 3 hit 2 to 3 years ago. Well, Dream Games proved us all wrong.
Yes.
In a way, but that's. I think we are trying to do the both on Rovio's end, but especially with the genres that we know that can be successful. We try to learn as much as possible within our studio. If you don't have a live title that is doing well, maybe you can try out to look at the benchmarks at Data AI or Sensor Tower or whatever.
Right.
So trying to figure out what is driving the successes and maybe finding these angles to make it even better. Add something extra. When you have a live game, there's some legacy topics that probably you can improve on.
Right.
But you need to be really, really good if you're trying to access to an existing market that nowadays is very competitive.
Very saturated too. What about you, Luka?
I mean, not all great ideas will make it, so that's realistic that we're currently in. The mobile gaming is a fairly mature industry and also extremely competitive. So like you well said, it's easier if you're a trailblazer in a certain genre rather than a follower by default. But that's super hard. And that's where the testing comes into the face also. You need to be very flexible as to how fast you can test, and also realistic as to how fast you can drop some ideas because they don't show enough promise. if it doesn't show promise, then why work on it in hopes that it will all of a sudden overnight become successful? Like, it's not realistic anymore, right? So having that said, at the end, it also like a lot about luck. Like, you can have a great product, but maybe the timing is not right, or whatever. Or maybe another team has also a great product, and they just kind of override you during that time. But if you would have gone out, I don't know, 3 months later or earlier, you would have that little bit of luck that would be needed, just to make this initial splash and visibility. So no matter how you put it, like hard work, great, but also luck.
Sounds like good advice. I think we still have some time on the clock, so we can open up the floor for any questions from the audience.
Any
Not
questions?
all at once.
It was a big night for many, I think. We sure no questions? If not, I'll ask. Do we have a question? Someone? Yeah, we got one question here. So I am terrible at seeing people raise their hands.
Thank you. I'm Matthias, and I was wondering, really nice talk about how to know the market is. Do you have some, what KPIs or websites, or I was thinking about the Twitter X comment about that you should know that what there is talking, the people who are playing the game. So this is like a open-ended question. Is there some websites or accounts to be like tips to follow?
I think for us the X accounts are like that's specific to our brand, but like in general, I think TikTok is the place to go nowadays, especially with the younger audiences. But it depends, and I think like you could even go to YouTube depending on the market. Like if you're going to try to get that virality, but either of those would work. But also the virality, you don't know if it's going to happen until it happens. So just keep your eyes open and like be able to react when the situation comes. You don't need to put too much resources on it beforehand, but just keep your eyes open.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got another question.
Hi, thanks for a great talk. So you mentioned in the beginning that the two kind of ways to go to create a really, very successful game is to either go wide or to go narrow with a very strong value prop. And in terms of your audience, so in the current market circumstances, which approach would you prioritize if you started a new project?
Probably go wide. Just having a game that's so sophisticated in terms of monetization is going to be inherently harder than making something that has the likability and potential to go mass market. So in that regard, it's probably easier to make, but at the same time, I would say the competition is also appropriate to it. But like Joel mentioned earlier, also with match-3 games that are very sophisticated, and oftentimes they're optimized, I don't know, on year 1 or maybe even year 2 lifetime value generated, and they're also extremely hard genres to get your foot into.
So is that because you would that in general it's just harder to make a really strong value prop? So
I mean, it gets more complex. So
right,
yeah. by default, you just need more bandwidth to do it. So either time or people-wise, it's a bigger investment than something that can potentially be really likable and go viral in terms of the mass scale.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, like to complement what Luka said, if you want to build a game that lasts for a year or 2 years, 10 years, it takes time to develop that too. So that takes more resources, but when you have this strong idea, if you have the luxury of having the resources, you can go more niche. And I would say mobile gaming through UA is still rather niche. no matter the genre that you have. Like if you let's put it this way: if you run a TV ad, which of the games in the market would be profitable with just those? Like if that's the broadest available option. So like it's just the matter of how niche you want to go and with which angle.
But also on the marketing side, I think that it also has to do with what is the revenue stream of the game, if it's like in-app purchase or in-app ads. Because for in-app ads, for example, the revenue comes from the ad and something called eCPM. So let's say outside Tier 1 in US, the eCPM is very low. So of course, the CPI is low also, but you're not necessarily returning the investment because of the returns are very, very low. So it also has to do with, what is your monetization and, what is your goals and let's say how deep is your pocket and how much can you tolerate and, absorb, loss before you go profitable.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Do we have any other questions? We still got a couple minutes. I think I'm definitely not seeing hands this time. Cool. So I had one quick question for you, just about billion dollar games companies. So you've already released your big hit. I think classically in mobile, it's don't have to release a sequel because it's a game that lasts forever. But are we seeing is there an opportunity now that you could release a sequel to that, or was that always a bad idea? I'm just curious your thoughts on this.
I mean, we're kind of known for our sequels now.
Yeah, right. You get spin-offs or.
I mean, to be honest, I think for us currently it's, let's say, a more sure thing to make a good sequel than a standalone product. Like Joel also said, once you have this brand promise to the players and what to expect, in terms of mechanics and so forth, it gets really hard to push them elsewhere. Like they associate your brand with a certain mechanic or a certain genre, and that's oftentimes it. So having those sequels usually can be like the best surefire thing that you might have in the stack.
Okay.
I think that is true also in the more like long-term IAP monetized games. So like you can go for it. Just don't eat from the existing pie. So when creating a sequel, create something extra. Try to acquire other users as well on top of the original one.
Yeah, I agree.
Interesting.
Okay, great. And if that's everything, then please give a warm hand to the panel. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you so much, you guys. Thanks, guys.